Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the weekly live stream for the Restitutor Orbis channel. I'm your host, Lucius Aurelian, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. A greeting to all Prime Explorers, viewers, and all others that are joining the channel. For this particular live stream exploration, we're going to be looking into the concept of the underworld, or the underground. And for our initial image, what I've picked out here is a good old image from Lord of the Rings, specifically the Mines of Moria. And if you're familiar with the Lord of the Rings, and if you're not, you might recall that this is the great underground kingdom of the dwarves, or the underworld. I want you to keep this concept in mind quite a bit, because if you've seen the film, and I know pretty much everyone has, especially Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy, and of course the very first one, The Fellowship of the Ring, where they prominently featured Moria. Now, yes, I'm well aware in the other adaptations they've featured it, but thinking back from the book and remembering the incredible columns and all that could potentially be underground and underworld, I'd like you to keep that in mind as we do those explorations, because while it may seem like it's some sort of far-off fantasy, there's actually a lot more practicality behind it than we like to think. And even the mainstream also acknowledges that we do have underground complexes, and we're going to look at those. And there's some other images that we have of Moria and some of the incredible detailing that the dwarves did in the Lord of the Rings franchise, or Lord of the Rings intellectual property, however you want to say it, Tolkien's work. And just some of the incredible detailing behind it. And what are your thoughts behind the possibility of a great civilization that could do something like this, that was in the underworld? Yes, good old Neil there, right? Everywhere. I forgot about that. Thanks for mentioning that, Jamie. And it's really good to see everybody tonight. And I've got a lot to cover, so I just want to dive into it. And Jamie says, highly probable. And we're really going to spell out each of the details behind why it's highly probable. And we're even going to look at some mainstream examples, but then we're also going to look at some more fantastical examples as well. But I start with Moria because I think it's a wonderful example in terms of how far things could really go. And it does seem like it's a little bit of a fantasy, but we actually have many examples of things that do exist in the underworld. And Marine says, stronger than the foundations of the earth. So very true. Very true in many ways. And I'll admit, when I first saw Fellowship of the Ring, I was very amazed by the way they did the adaptation of Moria. And of course, they had a really wonderful, suspenseful scene that they filmed down there with the collapsing stairway. We always remember it, but I'm just showing the artistic representations of Moria out of respect to the film. But I remember reading also the initial descriptions of it in Fellowship of the Ring, and recall how detailed the dwarves did recalled how detailed the dwarves were when they did their mining, the elaborate structures they had, but also what they were looking for. Now, it's intriguing when we think about all the examples we have across the land of what may really be there. PJCC West references the Misty Mountains. Yep. And oddly enough, you're going to be surprised to find out that we do have numerous examples of large-scale complexes that are located in mountains, and they're a little bit more common than you might like to believe. So, oh yeah. Well, and then, Chassis, the one difficult thing when, we talk about reading off of older newspapers, and I've actually found this to be an issue. They may be genuine, they may be misinformation. It's hard to tell in some cases. And it's one of the things that I've had to go through. Because sometimes you think you have some good information, and it's not. Now, by all means, I'm not denigrating anything anyone else has read from it. We all have to decide for ourselves if it's legitimate or not. So it's intriguing when you think about how many different variables there could be behind it. And Troy, welcome. Thanks for joining. And Fairy Girl references that there are many in Australia. Yes, very true. There are many underworld or underground complexes all over Europe. We're going to look at a couple. I didn't select any from Austria, but yes, they are all over, beyond any shadow of a doubt. And so we'll move on to this last image here. And what I always found intriguing about the concept of Moria and the underground civilizations is it's not just in the Lord of the Rings. You find many different examples of it. Jules Verne talked about it, numerous authors, numerous explorers were always looking for things in the underworld, if you will. And it's mentioned in so many different ways. And so there seems to be a little bit more practicality behind it than we might like to believe. So since the dwarves say they call it a mine, but really it shouldn't be called a mine, why don't we start off by looking at a real mine, one of the deepest mines in the land, in fact. And if you bear with me for a second here, we'll get up the Great Mine in South Africa near Johannesburg. And you might be surprised to find out just how deep this mine really is. Deepest gold mine in the world. Now, who's aware of this location? Anybody aware of the deepest gold mine being near Johannesburg? I know it's come up in a couple of articles. This is South Africa. Yes, indeed. It's amazing what a culture can accomplish or build when the average lifespan is 200 to 300 years, especially when there is no sign of tooth decay or any disease. Oh, that's a great point, Kish. I like that. So true, too. And you got all the effort that went into this. Anybody still there? Looks like we're having a few bounces here on this one. It's just one of those evenings. I don't know if the connection's going to hold up. All right. You got me now? I don't know. I'm having odd connections here. One second. Well, you had me sooner or later. Somebody's been trying to disrupt these lives. Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay. Give me one second. Well, I've been on the target list this week, so what can I say? Okay, well, I'm not going to end the stream here. I'm going to leave the studio, come back in a second. Okay, I'm back. Let's see here. See if this is better. Okay, can everybody... All right, good. So we'll move on. Sorry about that. Anyway, looking at the mines, these are some very impressive mines. And does anybody know how deep under these mines actually are? Now, they're looking for gold. That's what they tell us. And here it goes again. It seems like they're just trying to cut me off. I don't know why I can't. Oh, goodness. Very frustrating. Yeah, it might just be my particular location. And now it's good. Okay. All right. Well, we'll drive on and see if it holds up. So anyways, looking at some other examples of this mine, though, you get the impression that there's a little bit more of a structural integrity behind it. And that's probably the most surprising element about it. So, yes, I know. There's a lot of people that don't seem to care for what I'm doing, and that's totally okay. And you know what? If they just have to delete me to stop me, then so be it. But I'll keep pressing on. I don't quit. I don't know how to quit. So, Coleman Bentz, he's streaming live from the Underworld. That's why the connection's bad. Yeah, I wouldn't think the internet connection is best from the Underworld, but what can you do? Need a better router, right? And Sarah, perhaps people want to silence you. There's no doubt. People have wanted to silence me from day one, and that's okay. So, hey, Vaughn, good to see you. Welcome. And then Steve shares 22,000 miles of tunnels under Cripple Creek, Colorado. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more than that. Liz here, you shall not pass. Yeah, it feels that way, doesn't it? Anyway, let me get to the real point, though, behind some of the images with this gold mine in Johannesburg. So you do get hints of the structure being a little bit more developed. Now, this looks like what we'd expect a mine to look like. But then here, you get something like this. Now, we have seen this before, if you recall the Niagara exploration. And you'll find that this structure here resembles many other structures here later in the exploration, provided we can make it. I'm hoping we do. And you notice with the walls and the ceiling here, what exactly is going on? And remember, this is a mine. And Vaughn says, if I asked if I've upset somebody, I've been upsetting people just by doing this from day one. So it's all good. Oh, Troy Dodd says it does look like Labyrinth. Yes, it does. Those long hallways that lead to nowhere. Without any shadow of a doubt. It looks like they have that. So Fairy Girl shares there's a huge tunnel system in Austria, which has exactly the same walls. And you know what? You see it everywhere. And it's a great example. And thanks for pointing out Austria. I need to get back to Austria too. Fun explorations to be done there. Ah, Robert. Yes, it does look like those tunnels. And you'll be surprised what other tunnels it looks like too. Now here we have a little bit more of the classic mining equipment and a bit of what we'd expect from the mining setup. So it seems to alternate, and again, we're looking at images, and no, I have not been to the bottom of this mine myself, but this mine is talked about, and there are numerous workers that have been down there and do give firsthand references to what's going on down there. Now, this gives you some idea of how deep it is. At least it gives you a good idea of the layout of the mine. But I think this image right here, and I know I'm flipping through this quick, but this image right here gives you an idea of just how deep this mine really is. A gold mine, all the way down to 2.2 miles under the surface. Now, what are your thoughts about living, working, operating under the surface? What do you think about that? Troy, I really appreciate that. And for the new members, welcome. Thank you very much. Yes, it does kind of give that appearance of being a rather uniquely shaped tunnel, doesn't it? Albie shares, I would not go there. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, and I'm not just talking about doing a live stream down there. There is something about being deep underground, and there are some people who have innate reluctance, let's say, to go that deep underground. But just imagine being that deep in the land that far. So yeah, for the new members, by all means, check out the content. And thank Troy for that. Chemical General here says, you only go underground out of necessity. Absolutely right. I mean, nobody goes underground because they want to. Now, a lot of times we have accounts of people going underground for the reset. And indeed, in one of the explorations coming up, we're going to talk about some people who went underground, the Hopi specifically, and the people or entities or whatever you want to think of them as, the ant people who helped them. There's a lot in that account to look at. So Heidi says, more than a reluctance. Yes, very true. Very true. And so just think, this is just a gold mine. This is real. It exists in Africa, South Africa, excuse me, to be specific, near Johannesburg. And you can go all the way 2.2 miles under the surface. So just an operational gold mine. Well, let's take a look at another example because I've got a few more. And we're actually going to go back to the United States now. And how many of you would guess that there's actually a mine like this in Kansas City? Yes, back to Kansas City. And this is the entrance to it. And does anybody know what this is called? And for those of you joining us for your first live stream, welcome. PJCC West asks, are you familiar with Cerro Gordo mines in California? Brent Underwood purchased them years back and has been documenting his work on YouTube. Yes. And that's a great point. There are mines everywhere across the land. And Jacob Law says the plasma blast. Yeah, if you want to survive the plasma blast, you go underground out of necessity. So, and Queen, Peachy Queen, huge under KC. Thank you. Yes, Subtropolis, this is called. Music holds the secret. We're not in Kansas anymore. Oh, so true. And let's take a look. What's this really look like? So this has been around for a while. Now they say that they built this. They say that they tunneled this out and that this was originally a limestone mine. So, of course, we kind of blur what was already there and what was augmented. Now, these aren't the best pictures. This just shows you that this subtropolis has been there for a while. Now, here's the overall layout of it. And this just gives you an idea of how much area it takes. Now, we'll look at some more dramatic images here in a second, but here's old Arrowhead Stadium where the almighty Kansas City Chiefs play. And that's to scale. just to give you an idea of how large this subtropolis complex is, Kansas City, Missouri, at least, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas City, Kansas, KCK. But and no, I need to get this explored myself because I didn't get the chance to look at this when I did the Kansas City exploration. But what are your thoughts on this and the size of this complex? Maureen says that's a lot of flags. Ah, yes, that's always the way it is, isn't it? So very true. Very girl, I don't believe that these tunnels are new because in Austria, researchers took samples and the tunnels dated back to over 10,000 years. I would agree with that. And who knows how old they are really, fairy girl. Very good point. So let's take a closer look at this subtropolis complex. So yeah, they do a whole run there because that's how much room they have. And it's a run that's entirely underground. Now, I'm not recalling how far they go, but just the fact that they have that many people and they complete this entire run, I thought that was a very dramatic example of being able to fit that many people in this complex, do the entire run underground to start to give you an idea of the size of it and the immensity of it. They say it was originally a limestone mine, but, decide for yourself. Music holds the secret. Probably what's under the Denver airport. Yeah, who knows what's under there, so. And Dwayne shares, when I lived in KC, I had customers down there, and it was very easy to get lost. Very true. And you can see why if you can do a whole run there. So, Vaughn, we never hear a word about underground unless it's a new discovery. Oh, so very true. Very true. So they actually used it. I think these were Chevy Vegas. I don't know. I didn't follow cars in the 1970s. Okay, aside from the almighty Ford Falcon that appeared in Mad Max, 70s cars just didn't grab me. I'm familiar with the Mustang that James Bond drove, but I kind of ignore 70s cars. I'll admit it. But here's a spot where they stored all these cars. They use this for storage space too. So again, another indication as to why you could get lost in there, and they just have infinite amounts of underground storage space. And you might be surprised that this is over 100 feet underground in this old limestone mine, or so they say. And Sky Sage says, of course, the Underground Railroad. Yes. And this really makes you feel like there was an actual Underground Railroad, even though they say there wasn't. So, total attendees. Is that some underground race or something? Yeah, they do the entire race underground, apparently. Never participated myself, but maybe I'll have to look into it. Okay, the cars just break my brain more. Oh, yeah. We'll look at some more. I mean, it's a huge complex. And, that's one of the things we have to acknowledge. These are real. These really exist. Now, here's a better image, just giving you an idea of the area where you can see this individual here in the distance. And then you can see some of these doors. So, you can use this for everything. Underground storage, all sorts of applications. So was it already there as part of the mine? Did they augment it? Did they just add the lights? Who really knows for sure? I mean, again, it's conflicting accounts as usual. And Total Tendy says, makes me think of Death Race. Ah, yes. Death Race 2000. Where's David Carradine when you need him? And Ishko, good to see you. Thanks for joining us from Northern Macedonia. The first rule of underground is you don't talk about underground. You know what? You are absolutely right. I couldn't agree with that anymore. So, and Kathy says dumbs. Well, actually, we're not going to talk about dumbs, Kathy. We're going to talk about because, if I say what dumbs is, what's going to happen to the video. But we will talk about official acknowledged underground military bases. And Vaughn shares, it looks surgical. Yes, absolutely. The cutting on all this, the spacing, it looks like there was a lot more detail put into this. Now, again, I don't know the details on this. It's interesting to me now whether our civilization built this, it augmented it, it repaired it, or it was already there. It's very impressive either way that this does exist. It proves a lot. And here's another photo of that run that they're doing, and you can see that they are underground. And of course, people dress up for it. Well, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't want to participate. I'm just kidding. It looks like they're having a grand old time. And if you run underground, you don't have to worry about the sun. That's always the hardest part for runners, being out in the sun. And Sarah's in tobacco country. Ah, yes. And there's no shortage of underground complexes there. And in the Appalachians. All the, what was it? was trying to remember when they were trying to hustle moonshine there and infiltrate that. They apparently dug a lot of caves for that because, digging caves is an easy thing to do. So anyway, some more looks at this subtropical or this subtropolis. And here, this diagram actually shows you how far underneath it really is. So you got soil, you got the Winterset limestone, you got shale, and then they call it the Bethany Falls limestone. Ah, yes, just like we always do. We always have that really fancy name for the limestone, because there's so many different types of limestone, so many different types of shale. Which type is this? But to scale, this just shows you how far underground this subtropolis complex really is with all that area behind it. So pretty amazing. And definitely calls into question, was this something we really did, or was it just something we augmented, repaired, and cleaned up? Thoughts? What do you think? EP65 says almost every single mountain or even hill must have some tunnels or caves. Yes, it does give that impression, doesn't it? Jamie Griffin, a Laser Master boring unit can cut through 7 kilometers of rock a day. True. Modern technology can do it, and I don't deny that. Oh, yeah, Laser Mazer. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And Chassis shares, I went on a Tennessee Valley Authority Raccoon Mountain pumped storage plant tour as a kid. I think around 100 stories underground. I wish they let us take pictures back then. Yeah, no doubt about it. And Sky Sage, yes, beneath the Pentagon are many tunnels. And I'm glad you said that. Beneath every single structure, especially the old world structures, we have nothing but tunnels. Building number 1 on the channel, the Iowa State Capitol, a slew of tunnels underneath it. But that's every old world structure. Dwayne says, well, they needed to go somewhere to escape the dragons. Yeah, probably. Or whatever was going on. And Battlestar Utarian says, I'll bet the electricity has been there for many moons too. It's good to see you. Well, glad you could join us while you're working. Appreciate it. So. And Liz has joined us from Fayetteville. Yes, there's all kinds of stuff nearby there. Some of my favorite explorations in the Carolinas. I need to get back there. Anyway, so that gives you an idea of Subtropolis. And here's another image show, again, still using it for vehicle storage. I mean, why not? You could store U-Haul moving trucks down there and have room to spare. Probably get a couple C-141s down there, some very large cargo planes. I mean, who knows? You can get all the parts, the fuselages down there. I mean, just think about it. The potential's unlimited. You saw earlier how much area it takes. Here's another image where you got a semi with a tractor trailer going through it. And again, you see these gigantic pillars, and this is what they call the Bethany limestone. There's a town called Bethany up in Missouri, strangely enough. But yeah, I'm as confused as you are about these naming conventions. And Kathy shares, Ironton, Ohio has a lot of tunnels. What a fitting name, Ironton, Ohio. That would be the kind of place that would have a lot of tunnels, right? And Lorene says, I've been severely hoodwinked. Well, we all have, because we take a lot of things for granted. Just like Sarah in the film Labyrinth, but we learned not to. And Vaughn says, it's all very uniform no matter where you look. And I think that's probably one of the most amazing details behind this Subtropolis complex. So anyways, let's see if we got any more on this one. And I already looked at that one. Oh, and apparently they also store everything from grain to coffee. Oh, yeah, look at that, the coffee. Well, RB hasn't joined us, but, I wonder if she could get her coffee out of a great storage complex underground like this. I wonder if it tastes good. Probably does. Don't have to worry about it. But just an example of some of the things they have down there. Who needs an isolated seed vault when you've got this, Kansas City? And then this is another image from how things break down in Subtropolis, a little bit more dramatic here. You can see how some of this, it seems to be natural, but when you look, you get the impression of it being artificial. I don't know. I mean, you could possibly see some of the rock face here being more natural, but somebody tunneled through it. Of course, we got the walkways back here and another walkway there. Looks like we got water. I mean, again, just giving you the idea of how extensive this complex really is. Adam Slater says, don't forget the South Americans say they went underground to weather the flood and came out after the war with the Nephilim. True. And that's a very interesting account, too. Maxwell Smart says airship coffee. I was wondering when somebody was going to notice that. Yes, I couldn't resist. What can I say? And Sky Sage, hideaway for our nuclear subs. Yeah, and if you're familiar with Mono Lake, there's a lot of rumors about that up in California off of, I think it's the 395 there. Very interesting place, the magnificent state of California. Anyways, I think this is the last image I have. Ah, yeah. And again, our banner right now is we're just looking at mines. So different examples of mines, really get an idea of how large these complexes are. And Dallas says, I'm pretty sure the tunnels are where the cops. No. I mean, you can do anything in those tunnels, really. I mean, anybody can do anything. You've got all the space. You could have civilizations under there. I think that's the point. But yes, I get what you're saying. And Vaughn says, maybe that's where they hide the airships. Yeah, that could be. Maybe that's where they could hide everything. Ooh, old world Micmac here. Tobacco comes from the underworld. Very true, and a very good point. And Dwayne says, it's obvious we need to go back to the time before power tools. We seem to create better structures then. Yeah, and we seem to have no limitation between or behind what we could tunnel underground or making these great foundations. So anyway, that takes care of that part. So now we're going to transition to complexes or underground military bases. Now I know we talked about the DUMs, but we're just going to talk about the UMs. And what's the difference? Well, these are recognized UMs. So give me 1 second here and I'll transition. And as I'm doing that, please hit that like button. And thank you everybody for joining us. So give me 1 second here and I'm going to pull up our underground military bases. And we got a couple. I'm sure you're going to recognize the first one. And 1 second here. Stop screen, present, share screen. And here we go. Now, does anybody know where this is? Or what this is called? Somebody mentioned it earlier. Oh, look at that. EP65, Cheyenne Mountain. That it is. That it is. And isn't it great to see it? And by the way, have you ever stopped and asked the questions? I like this from Queen Peachy Queen. Uh-oh, it's glitching again. Can you hear me okay? Queen Peachy Queen says it's the moon, so. Oh, yeah. And that it is. And Kathy Childers has it. Yes, this is Cheyenne Mountain. Okay, it's black. All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to jump out and jump back in. Hold on. 1 second. I'll be right back. Actually, why don't we just do this? I'm going to put us on a 2-minute break, and I'll be right back. Okay, let's see if that's any better. Yeah, I know. It's been a little disrupted tonight, so what can I do? SS, does Mono Lake have any water? Yes, it does. Quite a bit, actually. But it's quite intriguing. Okay, well, I don't mean to bypass intermission, but I'm going to because it's working right now. So I'm just going to roll with it, okay? But yeah, thumbs up while you wait. But we'll move on. So yes, this is Cheyenne Mountain. Oh, thanks. Thanks, my Bailiwick Zone. I appreciate that. So anyway, let me get back to the proper banner. So we're back to underground complexes, Cheyenne Mountain, constructed in the early 1960s. And this is an earlier photo of the Cheyenne Mountain area where they constructed this impressive complex. And if you've seen the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick, Ali Sheedy from the early 80s, 1983, it's prominently featured, especially the interior. Everybody probably recognizes the entryway vault. But has anybody ever seen wondrous construction photos of NORAD? And that's the main base that's located here. I've lost color in the pictures. Good one, Dwayne. Good one. No. See, color's back. May, constructed, right. Ah, yes. That's a kind of interesting mountain. Oh, isn't it ever, Albie? And total tendies. Yep, that's the classic NORAD door. And the thing about it is, yes, this is something they want everybody to see. It's prominently featured in films. Everybody talked about it. So be aware of it. Of course, everyone's familiar with this, the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. And, underground military base, they built it in a mountain. So again, another account of a current civilization, at least accordingly, building in a mountain. Now, is that what really happened? Or did they just happen to find some stuff in there, clean it off, and repurpose it, and then, turn into a modern military bunker? I don't know. It's up for you to decide. This is a 1961 colored photo. But again, how much excavation did they do in there? How did they really dig it out if that's what really happened? I mean, I'm just asking questions. I know, they'll tell us. We got the excavators in there. It was a lot of hard work. It was 1961, and we needed the Cheyenne Mountain Complex for NORAD. Really interesting when you look at what we're informed was the stated capabilities of nuclear weapons, because Cheyenne Mountain was to survive a nuclear strike. So interesting image here. We've got some more. What do you think of this one? And look at some of the rock face around here. Isn't this intriguing? Now, of course, everybody recognizes the structure here. But what do you think of the rock face and what you see? Brian, lots of donkeys. Yeah, it does appear that way, doesn't it? Yeah, all those workers again, I mean, you just didn't need workers. I guess in the 60s, that was true too. Yeah, the boring machines actually melt the rock. And the thing about that is, this being much more contemporary construction, yes, we could attribute it to modern technology. Now, I'm not saying I know what the answer is. I'm just saying it's interesting. And even if our civilization did build Cheyenne Mountain, which it may well have, it's intriguing to me, though, that we could do this, or somebody could do this. And Ishko, the question is, if something is actually good for mankind, is there a need to hide it underground unless there's great danger? Great point. Why do we always have to hide things? Vaughn says machined, not dug. Yes, that seems very true. And Ham Walter shares it's a solid granite mountain. There's actually some more elements to it. So, and Sky Sage says it looks like a train station. Yeah, it's a good analogy. And Liz shares, unless the ant people want to save us down there. Yeah, it is interesting. It is interesting when you think about all these little details, because they all matter. So here's the layout of Cheyenne Mountain, from above. And you can see the south portal, the north portal. Funny, they even call those portals. Why wouldn't they? South access tunnel, the exhaust tunnel, and then the reservoirs, and then the main complex. So simple layout. And here's another image of Cheyenne Mountain from back in the day. So yeah, it's a mountain. And again, it's an account of tunnels being in the mountains, and whoever built them, if we built them or, United States military built them, fine. But it's an account, again, of having a complex in a mountain. And this is probably one of the main entryways people are more familiar with, where you drive vehicles in. But again, you can kind of see the structure within the rock. Isn't that interesting? Giant structures. So why do that? Well, because it's more structurally sound, of course. Okay, maybe. What do you think? Hey, Inferno, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Maxwell Smart shares, my grandma built that. Really? Well, let's get on something, Maxwell. That's not the secret thing to say to convince me that something was built by us, but good try. Jamie, what is the native lore associated with the mountain? I'm going to have to look into that. But there are some more details with the mountain, oddly enough. And there's this little tribute on top of it to Will Rogers, of all people. Yeah, apparently on top of Cheyenne Mountain, they built a little castle and a wall complete with parapets, because, that's how you need to acknowledge Will Rogers. By the way, does anybody know who Will Rogers is, or was, I should say? Oh, and guess when they built this? You'll never guess when they built this monument. I'll let you in on something. They did build it before the Cheyenne Mountain NORAD complex. But when would they have built it? When would it have made the most sense? And DeWitt says, who the hell is Rogers? Okay, well, who is? Who is Will Rogers? I guess I'll just give you the official definition of Will Rogers. I'll give you a hint, though. He did actually attend a school where I was interested in doing an exploration. So he was an actor and basically a comedian. And he was born as a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. Very intriguing individual. So I'm going to have to do an exploration on him just in general because he's quite an interesting individual with his background and everything he was involved with. So Mr. Rogers' dad. Yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Yeah, Heidi summarizes it nicely. Just a comedian guy. But yeah, they built this all for him. I'm not going to say your name 3 times. Yes, this is live. Thanks for joining us. Inferno, not as cool as Roy Rogers. Hey, Jennifer, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And thanks for joining us. Anyways, so here's a more contemporary picture of the Will Rogers Shrine, as they call it. They built this in 1937 because when else would it be? You know, when we're in the middle of a Great Depression. Oh, we weren't just in the middle of the Great Depression in 1937. We were also in a recession in the middle of the Great Depression. Yeah, people don't talk about that too much. Because remember, President Roosevelt was in office. And President Roosevelt, as I've said, the Roosevelts are only associated with policy successes in the United States. Don't forget that. Roosevelts only succeed. And whether it's Teddy, Franklin, Kermit, or whoever, they only succeed. What do you think of this? This tower built in 1937 on top of Cheyenne Mountain, the Will Rogers Shrine. This is definitely something that's added to my list. Yeah, founded or built. Good question there, Mullet Rider. Very good question. Hey, New West Reset. Thanks for joining us. Fairy Girl says, bet, yeah, 1937. Got to put people to work. So what if you're low on funds? Yeah, I'm with you, Total Tendies. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And Maymay says, Old Tartaria. It definitely has that appearance, doesn't it? And Ishko, suspicious in any case. I agree. Very interesting. I was not aware that this was on Cheyenne Mountain. I was a little surprised. Troy says, looks like Sauron lives there. Yeah, Sauron's tower on top of Cheyenne Mountain. But let's just step back and think about this. You know, Heidi says suspicious, and I agree. We have this tower that's clearly and gives the impression of being an old world structure. It might not be. I mean, I'm not going to give the final evaluation on it unless I go there in person and evaluate the construction material, but it gives the hallmarks of being an old world structure. It's on top of Cheyenne Mountain. They say it was constructed before they built the NORAD complex in Cheyenne Mountain. So is it possible this was some sort of marker? Is it possible this was all some sort of gigantic city overall? Perhaps looking like what we explored earlier with the Hive City? I don't know, but it's very intriguing. And it's all quite a coincidence. Oh, yes, and if you need anything more, the Will Rogers Shrine of the Sun. Oh, it looks like they got a couple nice lions out in front of there, because why not? And I bet if we looked on the inside, maybe we'll find some owls and some griffins. What do you think? Yep, I'm laughing again. And guess what? I'm going to laugh when I want to laugh. Liz says, top of a city, yes. And what a way to mark a top of a city, right? With a nice, beautiful tower like that. Yeah, and you know, Troy, a lot of people didn't know about this tower. And it's very intriguing. And what's this? Liz, why Will Rogers? Why not my grandma? Good point. Grandma deserve, you know, all of our grandmas deserve a nice monument like this. Great point. And Vaughn, yes, because you need a lion. You bet. Let's take a closer look at those lions. Yeah, I definitely need to get on site here. It looks like we got some plaques on it. Of course we do. Next thing you know, you'll find out it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, right? Because that all makes sense too. A UNESCO World Heritage Site on top of Cheyenne Mountain. Yeah, it does give some of the more detailed construction images here. But again, I'm just looking at an image. I don't know for sure. Old Glory up there with the flag of the state of Colorado. And the steps, too. So very interesting. And then here, this is apparently a 1937 aerial image, so we're informed, of Cheyenne Mountain. Yeah. Isn't this interesting right here? So again, it goes back to what's in the mountain, what's under the mountain. Not really sure. And Sarah with an H says, the lions look very similar to Chinese dragons. Yes, they do, don't they? It's a coincidence, I'm sure. Dallas says 99.999% weapons grade bolognium. Yes, we all have our degrees in the University of Bologna, don't we? And Didi Anoda too asks, have you ever investigated a hotel in Glenwood Springs, Colorado? Yes, actually I have, and that tower does look similar. Though, to be honest with you, though, it looks very similar to a lot of other random towers I just see. It also looks similar to that castle up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, one of the first explorations I did. So you see it a lot. Comes up quite a bit. Anyway, so that's it for Cheyenne Mountain. So yeah, if you're in Colorado, check that out. Okay, let's see if I can switch around here without causing issues. So we're going to pull up another underground military complex you may be familiar with. And if you played the Fallout game, you'll be very familiar with it. Share screen. Let's hope it doesn't stop it. And okay. Can you see this? Not glitching, so that's good. Uh-oh. Looks like it's glitching again. And Queen says, many structures were here already. Huge buildings they incorporated into prisons. Great, great observation there, Queen Peachy. You are right. It does look like those prisons. It actually kind of also, the material reminds me of the prison at Anamosa, Iowa that we explored last year. So, and Lawrence asks, which Fallout? 3? Yes, it was in 3. This is Raven Rock in the great state of Pennsylvania. So again, oh, thanks, my bailiwick zone. So a little wiggy on the audio. Okay. I'm going to pop out real quick and come right back in. Fix the audio. Be right back. Don't go away. Okay, I'm back. Let's get those images back up. Hopefully you can hear me all right now. All right. There we go. You see Raven Rock, the diagram of it. Yeah, isn't that funny, Chassis? You know what? That's why I'm not so into numbers, so don't worry about it. So, and Sky Sage says, looks like the Pyramid of Giza. Yes. Oh, thanks, Chassis. That helps. And thanks, Lorraine. Appreciate that. Whatever. Featured in Fallout series, it was originally constructed in the 50s as the survival bunker for the United States government, namely the Pentagon. It was their alternate location. Here's the construction. I guess you can call it that. Yeah, it looks pretty messy, but yeah, construction is messy. I'm not saying it doesn't. No image, black screen, bad audio. Okay. All right. Hold on. I'll try again. Not giving up. Okay. Here we go. All right. Can everybody see and hear me? Maybe tie a bandana or just throw a small towel over your mic. Yeah, I don't know what's going on tonight. It's pretty crazy. Nope, still can't see it, huh? Okay, you can see. I'm going to go on and do the best that I can. Might be just be my location. I'm not really sure. I'm glad we got this far. Okay, well, we're going to move on. So Raven Rock. And here you actually have the full diagram of Raven Rock. So you can see this is another extensive compound, tunnel to Camp David. So as if you need to know where this is. Command Center, Presidential Suite. So again, another example of an underground military base. Hey, don't worry. I don't know how to quit. Maybe somebody will figure that out. Well, thanks, Sarah. I appreciate that. And Al here asks, where is the entrance? So they've got two entrances. They got the A portal. So again, calling these portals, how intriguing. B portal. So the A portal, B portal, C portal, D portal. And that's how you get into it. And isn't this an intriguing image? So again, we're seeing like this rib work here inside Raven Rock. So very, very interesting. Albie says, May, I think he knows things we don't. Me? No, I'm not holding anything back. I'm just sharing all that I can. Thanks, my bailiwick zone. I appreciate that. Brian asks, is Raven Rock still operational? Absolutely. I mean, the United States could face a nuclear strike at any time. I mean, where would everybody go? They need to have Raven Rock. It's operational. Absolutely. So anyway, just a couple images of Raven Rock. Okay. So I'm going to try transitioning now. We're going to go to Old Cities Infrastructure. Hopefully it holds out because it always seems to go nutty when I try to switch images. And this might be a little surprising for a lot of you. Share screen, and here we go. So from Boston here, well, first I'll make sure everybody see this. And can everybody still hear me? Because I'm having issues when I switch images. So. Alex, how can some of these secrets be kept? Yeah, good question. Misinformation, misdirection, and then calling anybody who questions anything stupid, it's very effective. So. And here we go. Audio jack again. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm back on. Get the images back up. Yes, Chassis, I am on location somewhere, so. All right, can everybody see this now? And can you hear me all right? Okay, thanks, Julia. Much better. All right, we're going to move on. So anyway, in all these sewer complexes, and there's many of them, then that's what we're looking at. We're looking at sewers here. When were these sewers constructed? And what are they really referencing, or what are they showing? And who built all these sewers? And you might be surprised to know how intricate the sewers are. Why does the disposal of waste have to be so intricate? Well, it's well documented that the disposal of waste needs to be done with something that's very architecturally superior and very difficult to build, especially before we had large-scale excavators. Yes. They're good to see you. Thanks for joining us. A long time ago. Albie says a lot of people hate sewers. Yeah, they do, don't they? Tracy says the Dragoons built it. Yeah, maybe. But what's interesting about sewers is they're under every city, every town. Have you ever seen a sewer that's looked like this, though? just this very intricate and elaborate brick structure that you could just walk right on down. Why exactly do you need something this complex for a sewer? And think about how it compares to the complexes we looked at earlier. Ah, Jamie says the stuff beneath New York, ever so true. Oh, EP65, part of the energy system. Yeah, may well be. Or part of the old infrastructure. You know, remember when we looked at hive cities, you had the underhive that was still technically part of the city. So, looks like a fuel line, says Vaughn. Yeah, I agree. It does. Heidi says nice brickwork. Yeah, I agree with that completely. Looks like MC Escherdrein says, Queen, where'd you find these pics? I've got my methods. I've got quite an extensive library. I just save everything that looks interesting and catalog it appropriately. Yeah, there aren't any rats there, are there? Oh, Isabella here. Could it have been a pneumatic tube? Pneumatic tube. I don't know. Maybe. Very interesting, isn't it? Oh, here's a good comment from Reseister, if I'm pronouncing that properly. They had total control of water. Yeah, maybe. If they had control of sound, they would definitely have control of water. So, hey, Adam Baum, good to see you, brother. Oh, you know, just technical difficulties and all. But yeah, you missed quite a bit. But that's okay. It's recorded. Technical difficulties and all. And Texas Redneck Hippie says hydraulic systems. Yeah, I agree. Let's look at some more. So it's really impressive when you think about some of these sewers. And no, I'm not saying I want to go dipping and diving and exploring sewers, but it's interesting when you see how well constructed they really are and how many examples there are. Like, look at this one. Very intricate. All these blocks and bricks. And, you know, this is an actual sewer. It's considered an ancient sewer. But who is building elaborate, complex sewers like this? Was this something else from the so-called Middle Ages that we didn't know about? It actually kept the good people of Italy healthy, and that's how they were able to build that impressive cathedral in Florence. But then the rest of Europe just lived in squalor and filth. I don't know. I mean, it's amazing the things they tell us. And yes, you'll find this anywhere in the land. You know, China, United States, United Kingdom, all over Europe. Africa, you'll see sewers like this. You'll definitely see them in the Middle East. I can remember earlier phase of my life poking around sewers there, but, you know, we'll talk about that some other time. But I mean, just look at this elaborate structure and all these blocks that went into this. Hector references the Las Vegas sewer system. And that's an interesting one, given that you're right in the Mojave there. So, Fairy Girl says the old world was connected back then. They weren't used as sewers. I would agree. I doubt they were used as sewers. So, were they really? We think of them as infrastructure, but that's what we're informed that they are. But could they have had another use? Adam Baum says, looks like a Disney ride. Yeah, I guess it kind of does, doesn't it? So anyway, moving on. Look at this one. I mean, here you've got one that's actually turning. And I mean, look at the curvature in this. Very, very impressive. The way this block and brickwork fits together. And I mean, are these bricks? Are these blocks? Looks like we kind of got both. It's hard to tell. But just the intricacy of this. And again, you've got this under every city, every town, an underground. That's what's impressive about it. The underworld, if you will. And we don't realize this is exactly what's under our feet right now, wherever we are. Inferno says Brown Water Rapids. Yeah, I guess that's very true. Sheepdog. Willy Wonka boat trip. Yes, that's what they were missing. Sissy May, beautiful. I agree, especially the layout of it. Jamie Griffin. I think you're quoting or you're referencing H.R. Giger there, aren't you? Yeah, he's always got interesting artwork and things to do, doesn't he? Vaughn. Old Star Forts, I'm guessing. Yeah, very likely. EP65. Yeah, I would say they're corridors. And maybe that's what they did. You know, they connected together the structures of one of the earlier eras. That's what I'm thinking. And Sky Sage, definitely underground canals. Yeah, without any doubt. Without any doubt. Here's another one. Not exactly the best image, but again, it gives you that impression of how extensive it all is. And then this one. And I mean, look at this. And here you actually have full out blocks. And of course, why do you need to do this? What's the point of this? It's a sewer. Makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, no, I mean, I'm thinking it's corridor for whatever reason, but yeah. Oh, it's a sewer. Sure. Yeah, exactly. EP65 built to last. You got it. I agree. And D, great question here. I wonder if there's any structures beneath them or connected that only certain people know about. Who knows? I mean, the possibilities are infinite. I mean, you think about it. We've got an example of a gold mine that's 2 miles underground. We've got an example of an entire subtropolis complex in Kansas City that's 100 feet underground. So, anyway, yeah, exactly. Not a sewer. These are different images. Some are from Europe, some are from the United States. I didn't catalog exactly where they are, but maybe what I'll do is some of the more dramatic ones, I'll put them up on the community section on the channel page. So, but they're all over the place. I mean, you can find sewers like this everywhere, oddly enough. So, Sarah, arches offer structure so it doesn't collapse. Good point. Good structural observation there. Hey, Casey. Well, we already covered Subtropolis, but that's okay. It's recorded, so I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Brian, I've known actual treasure hunters before, 2 of them. Yeah, you can find valuable stuff there. Oh, no doubt about it. And the materials alone. So here's another one, and here you're seeing more of the classic brickwork, and I guess we've got the water going down here. Now, if you want to know what prompted this in my mind, I was actually watching the original version of Les Miserables from the 1970s with, of course, Richard Jordan, who seems to pop up into everything, is Jean Valjean, and he's facing off against Anthony Perkins. And I remember when he makes his escape through the sewer, I thought, wow, that was an amazing complex sewer under the city, or as my dad called the play and or the musical in the movie, less miserable. But in any event, it just got me thinking about this infrastructure, as we're told it is, that's under our feet everywhere, and how elaborately constructed it is. And it doesn't matter whether it's Paris, London, Boston, or some random small town in the middle of the Midwest United States. They all have structures like this that are under our feet. So it's very impressive, I think. Officer, once you consider it all, compare it with what they are achieving today, it's destruction. Yeah, very true. I would agree with that. Oh yeah, and definitely appreciate the comments. Lots of good ones here. And Lawrence, the Les Miserables show is really good. I do recommend seeing it live if you can. Old vibes in that. Yeah, then again, some contemporary vibes in it too. A little bit of both, so not surprising, I should think. So here's another one of these. So again, how old is this? When was this really built, and who built this? Now, someone had requested an aqueduct exploration, and yes, we will be getting to aqueducts here in the near future. Yeah, I'm sure this is how they built the sewer, in the mud with a couple horse-drawn carts. I just thought that was a funny way to end it. Anyway, please hit that like button. We've got one final section to do. So I'm not going to go on break. I'm just going to get through it since we've had some technical intricacies in this particular exploration. So please hit that like button. And we're going to go to our last section, underground cities. So we'll see how this goes. I might have to log out and log in. Just be prepared. And here we go. Share screen. Okay, let's make sure we're together. Hey, well, thanks for joining us. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody see this image? It says, you betcha, with the white versus. Yeah. There we go. Click again. Okay, so it's trying to put up new images. Okay, logging out and logging in. Be right back. Okay, let's see if we can get it going again. All right, can everybody see that one? Okay, it's clear. And up here, served 400 people dinner in a sewer. What a surprise. And sandwiches again. I'm gonna go fair. Just in that I had it. I'll try more. I think I'm gonna go to our final images. We've got deer and coo here, so it's just crazy. All right, right back. Hold on. Okay, can everybody hear me? Let's make sure we got audio first. All right. Here we go. Present image. All right. Can everybody hear me and see this? Good audio, and can you see the image? Thanks, Jay. I appreciate that. Without shooting, how long it would take to dig these tunnels? Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that doesn't make any sense. And nobody can see the image. Go figure, huh? I'll turn bad to share the image. Yeah. Okay. No visual. No images. So it's not letting me share the images. That's very interesting. Okay. All right, Vaughn says all good now. Okay. Well, I'm going to try to plow through. So yes, these are the tunnels of Girinkuyu, or the underground cities, if you will. And I explored this last year, and I had some troubles with this exploration when I did it. Now this is actually in Poland. It's a salt mine in Poland, and it's underground. Look how intricate this is. Oh yes, they just have an entire shrine and an altar underground as well. You can visit this in Poland to this day. I know I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. It's near Krakow, or it's actually in Krakow, in Poland. You can visit the salt mine there. The Walizka. I know I'm not pronouncing it right, because I didn't check the pronunciation of it, okay? Just trying to let you see all this. Yep, you got it. Krakow. Lori, I've had many interferences throughout my life. I'm used to it. So, so you're very well familiar with this. Yeah, it's very, very interesting, isn't it? We'll take a look at a few more. And maybe you've seen this, an example of a literal city that's in the ground. And I'll get this one posted. I'm sure you can guess where this is. I have a feeling who knows where this is. Yeah, the audio's breaking up. Yeah, whenever I try to feature these things just really go bad. Okay. Well, I've got to go to the final images here and try starting one more time and see if you can see them. So I will be right back. There you go. Just Google the Krakow salt mines and go to images. So. Okay. Can everybody hear me all right, at least now, if I stop sharing the images? I'm going to Risha here. What if they weren't originally underground but buried? Yeah, very possible they were buried. That's so very true. Okay, so everybody can hear me all right. All right. I'm going to hold off on images right now, and we'll just go through the last talking point here. Hey, QCZ, good to see you. So please accept my apologies for the difficulty with the images. It could be that, yeah, I'm actually broadcasting from the underground. I'm kidding. I'm not. So I think it's just something, could just be a coincidence or could be difficulty with whatever. So anyway, yeah, it's a weird glitch. It's happened once or twice in previous live streams, so it's been an odd week. Anyways, really getting at this with the underground and going back to the underground cities. You looked at the images from the intro. We've got a lot of different examples of these places that are everywhere. Fairy girl broadcasting from Asgard. Not quite, but maybe one day. So Jamie says, you've been very naughty. Yeah, actually I have. I've pushed it with a couple explorations these last 2 weeks. So anyways, but I'm gonna get some of these images up on the community page and make sure that they're good to go. But what I want you to keep in mind with the whole concept of the underground is the fact that it does allude to underground cities. It is one of the roots of where I get the 5 eras theory from. So anyways, Jamie, yeah, no doubt about it. And Brian, I think it's all within conventional boundaries. Maybe. PJCC West, interference from Shiloh. And QCZ says, odd week, odd year, odd decade, odd century. Yeah, no doubt about it. Yes, Heather, we're going to be talking about the ant people. I'll be exploring that here very soon. So we'll make sure we have a good connection for that. That might be a live stream. I might do that as just a regular exploration, so we'll see. But anyways, so I hope you enjoyed this exploration of Underworld and Underground. I'm going to try showing one last series of images, and if that doesn't work out, then we'll call it a live stream. So let's see if this works. Oh, thanks, Isabella. I appreciate that. So anyways, let's see if this works. Okay, here we go. Sharing screen. Hold on. Okay. Can everybody see this? Please tell me you can. It's getting glitchy again. Or can you hear me? Nope. Go figure. Oh, I'm getting yeses now. Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, this is one of the concepts of what an underground city may look like. Thank goodness, because these are the most dramatic images. So they've apparently thought about this idea of having underground cities, beneath the cities and powered by various points. Although how far did they get with it? Nobody knows. Oh, love that Coca-Cola right there. Here's another more complete image of it. So you can see that it would also include subterranean compounds as well. And so again, maybe looking like what we saw earlier with Subtropolis. And then the city itself. But quite a diagram. I mean, did you know that this was actually diagrammed and thought out in the past? Marine, City of Ember. Yeah, it does look like that, doesn't it? On those who shut us down fear us. Very true. That's why we keep going. Hey, easy, and well, you made it. We just got past it. So, anyways, take a look at a couple other examples. But just think of this, an example of an underground city that's powered, it's facilitated, everything. And then some of the dramatic images, so what really could be down there? You ask the question, could there be more advanced cities that are further under the land? Absolutely. And maybe they look like this or something like this. Things that just completely blow our imagination. And maybe they're still there just waiting to be found, or maybe somebody knows about them. I always found this one interesting where you have the 2 individuals on chains here. What's this representing? You have more angelic figures here. Just so many different concepts behind it that could be representing so many different things. And then here you see it with how it could have gone bad at a point in time. Was there erosion? Did it fall apart? As Underground World's Fair. Yeah, it does look like that, doesn't it? So, and Big AB, Fraggle Rock. Yeah, I agree with that. So, Jamie says would come as no surprise. Yeah, I agree completely. And then, of course, this last one, showing you a bit of a mix of a castle and the domes and everything. So who knows what's really under there? We do have clues that a lot of things could be in the underworld. So I'll be in Antarctica. Someone said there's a civilization underground. Sure. Could be one underground anywhere and everywhere for all we know. Aether topologist. Obscure films of these cities would be quite a watch. Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, with that, this is our last image, and I hope you enjoyed this exploration of Underworld or the Underground, and I thank you for joining me, and thank you for the great comments. And again, my apologies for the disrupted connection, but we made our way through it. So anyways, before you depart, please hit that like button. And it was another great exploration, and we'll be back with you next weekend for another exploration on Saturday. But I appreciate everybody being here. Kathy, thank you, LA, with glitches and blank screens. Yeah, I know. But in any event, I hope you all have a great week. And just remember, we'll get through anything because we're all in it together. Sorry, I just had to say that. We all decide to work together. Why don't I say it that way? We decide to work together. We decide to share information. I think that's a more fitting way to say it. So anyway, thank you for joining me. Thank you for the comments. I'm going to read through them, and I hope you have a great week. And thank you for joining me. And this is Lucius Brilliant signing off.